we're going to be here for months with a judge that already made up his mind. It's ridiculous. He's a Democrat judge, he's an operative, and it's ridiculous. Other than that, things went very well.
That's the voice of former President Donald Trump, who began his $250 million New York civil fraud case being brought against him by New York Attorney General Letitia James. Now, the lawsuit was initiated back in September of 2022. And the current judge that Donald Trump is sitting under has previously ruled against them, which is interesting because Donald Trump is speaking of this judge as though he had a jury standing between him and the judge. He doesn't. In fact, he is not having a jury trial. And according to Trump, it's an affront to justice as to why he doesn't have a jury trial, when in reality, it's because of his feckless attorneys.
I was going to come out and say that, as you know, we're not entitled to a jury, which is pretty unusual in the United States of America. So we think it's very unfair that I don't have a jury. But
look at how he frames this, the fact that he's not having a jury trial. Instead, he's having a bench trial. He's framing this as some type of miscarriage of justice, which was picked up by his supporters. They're all lamenting now that he's not having a jury trial. He's not going to be able to use or benefit from jury nullification. And he's making it seem as though it's some type of attack on him as president, when in reality, it is the fault of his attorney who forgot to check off the box on the form selecting a jury trial. I mean, this is amateur hour at its best. And listen to his attorney, Alina Habba, try to cover her butt on the news last night, when in reality, everyone in this country realizes that the former president of the United States has burned through so many attorneys that the only attorney that he could get to represent him in this case is such an amateur that she forgot to check off the box requesting a jury trial.
Like that. And I have to address this one common misconception in the press, and unfortunately it just keeps getting repeated, which is that we had this great option to have a box checked for a jury. No, we didn't have that. That's not how this works.
Actually, that's exactly how it works. There's an image of the complaint against Donald Trump circulating around, the actual complaint against Donald Trump circling around the internet, that shows very clearly that they checked off the box to waive their right to a jury trial. And so they are now saddled with a bench trial with a judge who not only previously ruled against Donald Trump, and I don't think that is as important as the way we see Donald Trump speaking about the judge. You know, anyone who has ever had to deal with the criminal justice system understands the last thing that you want to do is be caught attacking a judge. But of course, the former president feels so entitled, so privileged, that he believes that he has the right to spit, rhetorically speaking, in the face of the judge presiding over this trial, even though he's having a bench trial.
This is a judge that should be disbarred. This is a judge that should be out of office. This is a judge that some people say could be charged criminally for what he's doing. He's interfering with an election, and it's a disgrace.
Put a pin there where he says he's interfering with an election. I want to come back to that. But first, he's speaking of New York Justice Arthur Engoron, who previously determined that Trump engaged in fraudulent activity over years. And this is the same justice who gave the Trump organization, essentially gave them the corporate death penalty. Now, I think this is both ignorant of Donald Trump, right, because of his ego, but there might be some what George Bush called strategery underneath this, because in a lot of ways, by Donald Trump being able to carry out this public fiasco that he's doing in front of the media, he's seizing every opportunity he can to use the media to sandbag this trial. By doing this and attacking the judge so vociferously, he is creating a narrative in the United States that no matter what this judge decides, the judge has it out for Donald Trump. Why would the judge have it out for Donald Trump? Well, because Donald Trump is attacking him every single day. And there's no reasonable person well, there's no reasonable people on the right in this country right now anyway, but they will never be able to accept the ruling of this judge if for no other reason than the very public war that Donald Trump is waging against them. They are going to assume, they are going to conclude that any decision that comes from the judge will be mired in animosity because of how Donald Trump is attacking him in the media. Now, setting that aside, it is absolutely ridiculous for a defendant to publicly wage a war against a judge, but we are going to see the extent of extremely wealthy, extremely white conservative privilege in this country. Let's see how far they can go with this. It's not only Donald Trump that's on trial here. The entire organization is on trial. His sons and his daughter, they are also on trial. Here's Eric Trump on Fox News last night responding to the beginning of the civil fraud case from New York.
Because, Sean, they don't care. They don't care about the details. Mar-a-Lago is one of the most valuable properties anywhere in the world, worth well over $1 billion. Look at the portfolio of properties. They're incredible. And there's no one that's done more for the New York City skyline than Donald Trump. We hire literally and employ thousands and thousands of workers. But those details don't matter to these monsters.
Okay, we're here a few details. The Attorney General's office suggests that Donald Trump and his children, including Eric, misrepresented their financial statements, inflating their worth by approximately $3.6 billion from 2016 to 2021. Here are a few more details. The Attorney General's office aims to confiscate all of their ill-gotten profits from bank loans and impose a $250 million penalty on them and revoke their business license in New York. How about those details, Eric? Here is Attorney General Letitia James as she outlines their case on the court steps.
Today, we will prove our other claims. My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it. The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case.
The law is both powerful and fragile. And I think we as Americans are witnessing this firsthand as we see the threat that someone like Donald Trump plays, the threat that he is to our legal system, to our system of democracy. And this last clip of Trump, you're going to hear him try to make the claim that this was a victimless crime. He's not going to call it a crime, but he's essentially saying that no one was hurt. The banks weren't hurt in this, which really kind of speaks to the pathetic nature of this particular person, of Donald Trump, right? He's simultaneously using and asserting all of his energy, all of his economic and political capital and his social capital to challenge the legal system of the United States to the point of breaking it, a breaking point, bringing it to its knees, wondering if America can survive this man's ego. And at the end of the day, it boils down to a cheapskate con artist trying to inflate his numbers so that he can get more money from banks. And so as he's explaining this, he couldn't explain it without first going after Attorney General Letitia James. Listen to him.
We have a racist Attorney General who's a horror show, who ran on the basis that she was going to get Trump before she even knew anything about me. She used this to run for governor. She failed in her attempt to run for governor. She had virtually no polling. She came back and she said, well, now I'll go back to get Trump again. And this is what we have. It's a scam. It's a sham. Just so you know, my financial statements are phenomenal. They are actually less in terms of the numbers used than the actual net worth. The actual net worth is substantially more. No bank was affected. No bank was hurt. They don't even know why they have to be involved. And they've so testified. They can't believe that they're involved because they were paid back on time. There were no defaults. There were no problems. And it was like a perfect client. In the meantime, people are being murdered all over the sidewalks of New York. There was no victim here.
That's called a whataboutism. What about all the other crimes that are happening in the city of New York? Pay no attention to his crime because he paid the banks back.